And we are live. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I'm one of your co-hosts, Blake Ruffino. Alongside me is my counterpart and Fernando Mendoza hater, Joe DeLeone. Good evening, good sir. How are you?
What are you talking about? I know you were listening into the A to Z Film Room mailbag earlier. I was hyping up Fernando Mendoza. What are you talking
The
about?
fact that you didn't put Fernando Mendoza as the number one overall quarterback coming in to next year's draft is abysmal.
No, I don't. We didn't rank anyone. It was an open-ended conversation about the quarterbacks to know. That's all it was. I love Fernando Mendoza, though, man. The more that I see people talk about him, the more exposure I get to him, the more that I think he is going to have an insane season for Indiana, which that'll be a fun preview when we get around to that.
I really love listening to you and Ryan about something going in. I know that that you have finally gotten on the bandwagon of Caleb Banks. Welcome to the club there, Mr. Joe DeLeone. But I really do love listening to it. But here's a hot take. I don't think Arch Manning is only at the University of Texas for 1 year. I wouldn't even put him on my draft board. There's no way. Go ahead.
We decided I didn't mean to cut you off. We already decided we're not touching him. I'm not doing a preview on him. He played one game. How am I supposed to break down one game?
Well, I mean, you do have ULM, you do have Mississippi State that you could talk about, but he would be the first Manning to declare without being a senior. Yeah. So that I don't think it's how they roll. But as someone who is an avid listener of A to Z Film Room, I suggest y'all go over there and listen to Ryan and Joe. It's a lot of really good content, and it's more ball talk than just draft talk. That's what I think is a good thing about it. Nevertheless, Joe, we got, by the way, public service announcement. I'm talking about this at 7, but there's a lot of wild post-spring narratives in college football that are already starting. We're in May. Let me give one very quickly. That Texas ran the football at will last year.
Yeah.
Did you see this?
Who put that out?
The Texas fans like going after our friend Chris Phillips, and then me and Cole Kublik talking about it. Like I was like, hey man, like the spring doesn't matter. Like when it comes to you not doing one. So I just want to throw this out there just in case anybody saw it over the last week and a half. Joe, in game 1, Georgia versus Texas, Texas ran for 27 yards. In the SEC championship game, they ran for 31 yards. Against Vanderbilt, they ran for 104. Against Arizona State, they ran for 53. Against Ohio State, they rushed for 58. And against Clemson, they ran for 292. Outside of Clemson, what brought their average up, they only rushed for 94.5 yards per game. You take Clemson out, they're not even really eclipsing 60. So I'm going to warn all of you college football fans, postseason big rankings, which, by the way, I loved Cole Thompson's today, putting Penn State at number 1. Way to have some balls. But it's May, Joe. People are gearing up. It is talking season. Be careful of the narrative that you listen to.
The thing that bugs the shit out of me with false narratives created like that Texas was some dynamic, balanced running team in every single game that they played. We don't need to talk about last year. We don't. We really don't. We really don't need to only look at what happened last year.
Wisner coming back as the only guy that had 1,000 yards returning in the SEC. The problem with that is that he didn't have more than 30 yards against Georgia. He didn't have 30 yards or 40 yards against Arizona State or Ohio State. Joe, basically what we're saying here, outside of Clemson, the ranked opponents that you played, you got your ass whooped.
Yeah. They couldn't move the ball on the ground. And we talked about that in the preview. That was like the biggest thing for us. CJ Baxter comes back. But can you actually establish an identity on the ground? And Sark talks about the importance of having that. I think if you asked Steve Sarkisian, he would agree that last year was under expectation.
Oh, he has to. I still have yet to listen to the Pate.
Yeah, I want to get to that.
Whatever they did. But nevertheless, Joe, we do have some breaking news here. Attorneys have filed a new brief in the House versus NCAA settlement case, which includes grandfathering in provisions for roster limits. Under the plan, athletes who had their positions cut would be eligible for reinstatement at the school's discretion. So just throwing that out there. Mainly that's going to be basketball and baseball related. not so much in football, I would assume here, because they still have 85 and players just getting cut regardless. But Joe, speaking of house settlement, which is a big news here on 3 reporting, the bigger news here is that today your ex-colleague Ross Dellinger said sources that Trump is going to announce in the next couple of days, maybe week, that he is putting a, quote, presidential commission together to get guidelines after meeting with Nick Saban for legislation. Joe, the commission that he's putting together starts off by finding a possible solution. This is what I love about this. This is not political. Thank you for not running in there and signing some stupid executive order like what we thought was going to happen on Monday for something that you really need to take a massive look at, get all the details, sign an executive order. I thought it was very promising to not rush into this. Let's get everything right, get it done, and then get it passed. But they are putting a presidential commission. By the way, over-under, bet online that Nick Saban runs the commission. What's your over-under?
Well, he is. He's going to. I mean, he's the fact that this came out of the conversation that the two of them had in Tuscaloosa during the commencement speech, he has to be. It was referenced in Ross's article that Saban is expected to be a central figure. He's probably going to be the central figure. I mean, it's just how Donald Trump operates that we know is that he is going to turn to somebody that he knows and recognizes. He's going to turn to Saban to be a decision maker in this. One of the big key thing with all the information that was brought up with what the whole point of this is, it was labeled as a month-long endeavor for solutions to issues ailing the sport. And it was super broad. It was talking about college sports stakeholders and prominent business people, by the way, are going to be part of this commission. But some of those issues were the frequency of player movement, unregulated booster compensation, the debate on college employment, conference makeup, TV contracts, all of those things. I agree with you that I'm glad that this wasn't some haphazard tape job of like, all right, this is what's changing right now based on my decision-making by an executive order. That would have been very hasty. The flip side of this, Blake, is I have a little bit of pause and I lack optimism for believing that this is going to actually solve much. Because how many times have we heard that groups are formed that are going to talk through the major issues? More importantly, how do we trust the government, who's awful at problem-solving things, that they're the kings of forming committees that don't do shit? So I have a little bit of pause that I don't believe that they're actually going to be able to fix anything. I think they're just going to talk it through.
Well, let me tell you why. This is why I think Saban will run it.
Okay.
Because you'll have a non-governmental guy or entity in there that can tell Cory Booker, who, by the way, did you read the last paragraph in Ross's piece? And I don't mean this in any kind of political way. Ross leans pretty left, right? Like, I mean, there's no like, and I don't care what way you lean. Joe, they had a meeting. Ross says that there was a meeting 2 weeks ago, where Cory Booker, the senator, I don't even know where he's from.
New Jersey.
Okay, New Jersey, who basically shot down everything Ted Cruz brought in there. By the way, if you keep shooting all of that down, then nothing will ever get passed. And here's the other thing. Remember when we were talking about Sankey? Remember when we were talking about Batiti? What they were the ones leading, saying we needed legislation through the government. I mean, they're the ones, if we're being dead honest, they're the ones that came together and said, y'all got to do this. Now, I do think, Joe, that they kind of have to with Title IX and everything that is a governmental part of this. But I do think that, with all due respect, bringing in, I don't care if it's Saban, take whoever you want in this, someone like him that can go to Cory Booker and say, listen, I get what you're saying. This is killing the sport in X, Y, and Z. Now, I know a lot of people, I saw a lot of people from other conferences saying this only benefits the SEC. How does it only benefit the SEC?
I don't agree with.
But by the way,
people see Saban and they just jump to that conclusion.
Well, hold on. Nobody has benefited more than the University of Texas. No one. Name another team that's benefited more than Texas. Sark can't get past 7-8 wins. they start spending a shitload of money in NIL. They got 2 Final Four appearances in the last 2 years. What do you mean that the SEC is not profiting off of this? It would hurt Texas more than it would help them.
Wait, I'm kind of confused by your
because think if there is some form of legislation, teams like Texas that are just outspending everybody, that stops if there comes some form of legislation, right? Like, I mean, Joe, what are they doing? I mean, right, it's what they've been doing. Like, and listen, to all the Texas fans, they'll be mad about that. Why are you? There's no reason to be mad about it. Everybody's got the same playing field at the current moment. Like, why you should be proud of that if we're being honest.
Yeah, I mean that's a fair point to bring that up, and I don't think that there's no like clear beneficiary of this. Everyone involved in college football,
beneficiary. The fan is the beneficiary.
The sport and fans of the sport, players, coaches, they're the beneficiaries of something like this actually working. It's ironic that you bring up Cory Booker who's shooting everything down because he's actually one of the only former players that are politicians that actually.
By the way, did you read what he said? Did you see that?
No.
Basically, that you're not going to make us slaves to non-capitalism again. He called legislation on NIL and the portal slavery.
He's been a bit of an extremist when it comes to talking about certain things. I've never agreed with it. Again, he does actually have real context compared to most of these other politicians because, again, he played at Stanford. He was supposed to be one of the greatest tight end recruits ever. Didn't pan out. I think that
Go figure.
I still stand by, though, and I think that I bet you he's going to be a part of this, by the way, because of his background.
I don't mind it being a part about it, but stop shooting down everything that a Republican says just because you hate the right, left, or indifferent. Can for once we come together and find a solution?
So that goes in line with what I brought up at the beginning of this. I have a lot of pause to believe that this is, in the next few months, actually going to present a true order of what needs to be changed in college athletics. I do not have faith that a group, no matter, because you're trying to create a group with balance, you're trying to create a group from all different backgrounds to provide insight on this. I have a very limited amount of faith that they, with government oversight, are going to be able to actually problem solve this because, again, the government, the people that have been the key stakeholders in college sports have done a bad job of talking through these things. And they've taken the action of talking through these things before. So I have a lot of pause. I can totally be proven wrong here, but I wouldn't be surprised if after a few months of this that we don't hear, well, they got to revisit. They got to go back and they got to revisit some things.
That, you bring up an interesting point. Okay. And my last part of this, I didn't really think about that. I just don't see them not coming up with a deal. I really don't. I can't. Because I think Trump is going to push it so much that here's what the bottom line of it would be. You know what he's only got to do? He's got to get guidelines for Saban to sign an executive order. He doesn't need Cory Booker to sign an executive order. None.
Right.
So to that point of your worry on that, I don't really feel like that there should be a worry. Do you want to know what my real worry is? My real worry is that we only get 2 years of this. And 2-3 years of this, and somebody comes in and swipes and gets the presidency besides Trump, and that executive order goes bye-bye. That's my worry, because a president can take an executive order and shove it right up someone's candy ass. It doesn't mean anything. Well, I mean, really, it doesn't. So that would be my worry. What they really need is for guidelines and it for to be passed through the Senate, and then we're steady going from there. But let me ask you this last thing. We'll get moving.
Okay.
What are 2 things that you want to see in this legislation?
I mean, this is such a broad arching.
I know, but Joe, here's the problem with it. You got to start somewhere. Maybe we could do this on Sunday. It give us more time to think. But I mean, what are some couple of things that you kind of already would want to see happen?
I will give you one.
Okay.
I think that problem issue number 1 that needs to be not addressed, but the first action, the only action that needs to come out of this that will work towards fixing everything else is the formation of a collective bargaining agreement. Because right now, those that are arguing in favor of the players are guys like Jeffrey Kessler, who is an attorney who is acting as the representative for the players. He has not been employed by a union. It was action that was essentially created by him himself, unless I'm misreading into the situation. That needs to be what comes out of this. That is the first step. If that's the only thing that happens, that is a win. That has to be the win. And I fear that there are going to be some people on certain sides of this, especially former coaches, especially Nick Saban, it feels like, that don't want to see a union, that don't want to see a collective bargaining agreement. Because the minute that we have the collective bargaining agreement, that is how things start to smooth out. In the history of sports, the NFL, the NBA, MLB, all of these sports, the players' associations and the formations of those player associations, the communication of those associations with the leagues have been what have ended lockouts, that have been able to quickly solve problems, that have led to increase in salary caps, increase in the amount of games being played. Things move a lot quicker when there is an actual formation of a group. So I think that's the biggest thing. Say it again.
Well, no one gets paid in a lockout.
But my point here is that if the problem is that there are a bunch of people that are arguing over problems without hearing from the people that are being impacted by it. And the problem is the people that are being impacted by it are in and out of the sport so quickly that they technically don't really care as much to like actually weigh in on the issue until after they're gone.
I just want to throw this out there. If Judge Claudia Wilkin does not accept the terms by the attorneys on this house settlement case, which I think that she will, my God, my God, we're in trouble. Now, here's another thing. If she does accept it, and why this has got to move quickly regardless of what they do, the only thing that I would say here is this. There's no policy on what universities can do. They can pay one kid X and another kid Y. As long as one gets paid, it doesn't matter. You do know that, right? So if I pay a punter $1,000 and I pay my quarterback $2 million, it does not matter.
Right.
Like everybody understands that now, right?
Yes.
So just so we're all understanding and we're all aware of what these ramifications are at the current moment. You think shit's crazy right now. Joe, wait until you got a 5-star kid at quarterback. I'm going to throw it out there. It was reported today with Jared Curtis. Did you see Nako's?
$1 million.
Kirby don't be paying dudes like that. Not like that. Not like that. Not like that. Why do you think that is? Because they got to give TV revenue money anyway.
Right.
So his punter's going to be getting a hot dog and a ketchup packet, and his kids that's not even signed is going to get $1 million.
It's just how the market works. So the system works.
It's how the system's going to work. So I'm just telling you, better be ready for it. All right. Joe, when we come back, we'll talk about Jim Knowles' comments about how Rudy Poo he believes that Ohio State has been and was to him, and some interesting developments that happened going to Penn State. And we'll do a Michigan deep dive. But before we do that, everybody do us a favor. Hit the like and share to all those groups. If you're on Facebook, if you're on Twitter, if you're on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, notification bell, and wherever you listen to podcasts, rate, review, and subscribe. Joe, let's talk about our good friends over at Cheribundi before we talk about our good friends over at Bet Online.
Of course, I've been in love with hyping up Cheribundi. Again, I bring this up every single time. You and I are health nuts.
Somebody robbed you.
I need to figure out where my latest care package has landed. But you and I,
your roommate took it.
Honestly, I think that might be the case. Sean would do that. You and I are very health focused. You and I have both gotten in great shape over the past year. And I think that one of the best resources to help you get the same results, it's Cheribundi. They have so many different products that help reduce soreness, increase recovery. They've got products that help improve sleep as well as support immunity. And the biggest thing is that you know that you can trust them because so many professional and college teams use it. Over nearly 500 college and pro sports teams, every NFL team, 10 of the last 11 Super Bowl champions, and every team that played in Europe or Brazil this season had Cheribundi with them. 66 out of 67 Power 4 conference football teams and every NCAA football and basketball national champion since 2007 used it as well. Their products are available on Amazon, cheribundi.com, cheribundi.com, and other retailers all over the country like Publix and Kroger. Go to cheribundi.com to order.
The former Ohio State defensive coordinator Jim Knowles spoke with ESPN this week on how things ended at his time and tenure after a national title run at the university. Well, is it Ohio State University? I was going to say the University of, but Ohio State University, the Ohio State University. Joe, I don't know if many have seen this. Basically, he talked about the awkwardness going out the door. But the interesting thing that Jim Knowles talked about here was that he was trying to get a contract extension in the season. It didn't come to pass. And 2 days after the national title, he contacts James Franklin, and that was what she wrote.
One of the things, Heather Dinich reported this on ESPN. One of the things that I kind of caught my attention is he pointed out that there was some finger pointing that had happened after the Oregon loss. And there was also him referencing that he got used to it. He got used to the pressure. He got used to him receiving a lot of the blame. And I mean, heck, we've done that on this show. We've talked about how Jim Knowles wasn't doing a good job. We talked about how the defense didn't perform. But it sounds like there might have been some of that happening within the building. I just found it really odd. And like, I'm not going to speculate on what was happening behind closed doors. I don't think that's like truly fair to do, but I found it really odd that they didn't immediately rush to extend him. They won the national championship because of him. They went on that run in the playoff. I don't want to hear anyone say otherwise. Because of him. That defense played at an insane level. We can go back and look at all the clips, all the segments, Blake, that we recorded during that playoff run. We spoke highly of Jim Knowles. They were in the Michigan game because of Jim Knowles, not because of Chip Kelly. Chip Kelly dragged them down. Their success this year with the up and down nature of their offense, it was because of Jim Knowles. I mean, he has every right to be not only talking about this right now, but to feel uncomfortable about it when he accomplished so much for this team.
I mean, the interesting thing is, and Ohio State fans won't back you on this, and that's fine, but
they're mad at me right now.
They're pretty pissed off at you. Do you remember the goal line stands against Penn State, Nebraska? Do you remember the multiple goal line stands against Michigan? Do you remember the goal line stands in the playoff game versus Texas? Like, what are we talking about here? Now, here's what I think. If you go back, please do me a favor, bud. I want you to do me a favor. Remember when he left, we had a conversation in a bullet point. Joe, is it just the money here? Like, was it just the money? We talked about that because there comes a part where a dude doesn't really there's no way that you can convince me that they weren't going to give him $3 million at Ohio State. There's no way. I cannot be convinced. Well, I can't.
What was stated in the article, and again, this is a lot of, he said shit. He said that essentially that if he would have taken less to stay. And I think that he had indicated in the article that the offer was not as much as what Penn State was offering him.
Which breeds what? In-house tension. Ryan Day felt it. And he blamed somebody that he shouldn't have been blaming. And he can't blame the guy, his mentor, and Chip Kelly, the reason of it. I mean, you're blaming Jim Knowles for what exactly? For what? Please tell me. Because I will tell you right now, there are probably, I'm not going to say all 132. I think that there's 130 teams in the country right now that would take Jim Knowles as their DC.
Absolutely.
So go ahead.
One of the things that kind of caught my attention with this, and it made me think, and I know that I see Elks in the chat is kind of pointing out they were focused on winning a national championship, trying to work through an extension in that timeline. The counter from the Ohio State administration and Ryan Day would have been, it's bad timing. We can't focus on that, try to work through that right now. I would argue that that's not truly Knowles would have an agent who's handling that, and it would probably
Can I stop you right there? Can I please stop? That is dog shit. That is complete and utter dog shit. It is the agent and the ADs. Hey, AD, I need 5 minutes of your time, Ryan. Do you want Jim Knowles extended? Yes, sounds good. The AD goes back to his office. The AD starts getting in contract negotiations with the agent. That's dog shit. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear about an extension. The reason they didn't do it was because they had already lost to Oregon, and they thought if they lost again that they might need to have some shakeups. The reason they didn't do that shit was mainly due to the fact that they wanted some outs just in case, and if they signed an extension, and if something happened and they needed to fire everybody, that they didn't want to pay a massive buyout. That is what happened. I do not want to fucking hear this lame excuse that you couldn't get that done during the year. It is bullshit. That is bullshit. They didn't want to pay a massive buyout, and you know it.
I'm laughing because I have to go and cut out all those curse words now before I send this to
Oh, damn.
because we're airing on Sirius this week. No, you're fine. That was an amazing rant because I think that you're on to something though. Like,
okay,
I think that
the non-curse version was me saying it was manure.
Okay,
because we got to cut that out.
Well,
But
I'm just gonna bleep it. I'm just gonna bleep. We'll be fine.
That was manure that they couldn't get it done. They thought that they would have to fire people, and they didn't want to pay a massive buyout. You know that that's true.
I think that that's a really good angle to take here. And I understand that we're speculating, but you're right. If you don't win the national championship, it is a completely different environment. Completely different. You lost to Michigan. You didn't win the Big Ten championship game in a year where the expectation was for you to win the Big Ten championship with all the guys that were coming back, all the money that was spent. Yeah, I think that they were looking to point the finger. I think that they needed somebody to point. I think that they didn't know if they wanted to bring him back or not. I wouldn't have been shocked if he didn't get forced out at the end of the year knowing all this. And again, we're kind of partially speculating.
No, but here's the thing. They teach you this in investigating. You got to stop speculating and start asking, is this the truth of what happened? Because when so many actions will start pointing towards something, it's not speculation anymore. That's what you call, wait for it, a proof of guilt. So it comes to a part where, and it's so funny, the last thing you said was, hey, Blake, heads up, don't curse. And the first thing I do when I get mad is I curse. Anyway.
I mean, I'm not, it was a great rant by you.
We talked about with Michigan, okay, and Sherrone Moore getting suspended, that it was on Michigan that it was a mission of guilt, right? Mm-hmm. Like it feels like an admission of guilt. It feels like an admission of guilt that you didn't want to extend him because you didn't know the way that the season was going to go. And here's the crazy thing. You lost by 1 on the road.
Right.
And Joe, you had the ball with a minute plus on the clock to go. I mean,
you talking about the Michigan game? That was at home.
No, I'm talking about the Oregon game.
Oh, Oregon. Sorry. I'm sorry. I got mixed up.
The Oregon game that you lost on the road at home, you lost, what was it, 31-30? Wasn't it 31-30? Wasn't it the final score?
It was a close end of that game, and I think that it's mischaracterized the outcome of that game. Denzel Burke didn't play well. You were going up against a top 5 offense in the country. I would argue the lack of late game execution and the complete failure. You had time. Like we talked about this. It was a complete mismanagement of the clock and the time that was available to them. I would argue that a lot more of that blame was on Chip Kelly, and I think it was an even blame between the two of them. It was not the defense's fault purely for the performance. And we talked about that after that game. We talked about how Will Howard made a really bad decision and let the time click down. When
he had a Dak moment. He had the Dak moment, remember, at the end of the game.
Right. One other thing with this, though, I was going to say, I think that your inference is you're on to something, but the overarching thought here. We talk about how the transfer portal timeline is a mess. I think that a very underrated thing that nobody's talked about, it seems like the timeline for establishing extensions and negotiating them is also a mess. Like if this was coming down in the middle of a playoff run, why couldn't this have been done sooner? Ohio State should have had the forethought to do it sooner, but is this something that can happen in the future at other schools?
Joe, negotiations like that never start at the end of a season.
Right. They must have had a thought to get rid of him.
So to Elks' point, or to Super Chat, he says, looking to leave 29 hours after winning a natty, you wanted to leave all along. Knowles took the defense, but 0 second.
I reject that.
Michigan. I reject it too. And Elks, I know you're trying to defend Ohio State. That's your team here. The 0.5 points punts has nothing to do with them only allowing 13 yards. Your offense has got to score more than 10. That's number one. Number two, are you going to sit here and try to convince me legitimately that you wanted him to stay? he told you during the year these conversations were having, and they didn't give him an extension. He had one year left. He calls James like, hey, bro, I'm kind of a free agent here. What you want to do? BS, man. BS. Ryan Day and them not getting this done might come back and bite him in the rear end. Joe, I don't think that Matt Patricia is going to be a bad DC. I don't. But there also comes a place in time where I ask, what if that does go bad? And during the season, you didn't sign him. So that, like, there's only one or two things that can happen here. Either Patricia isn't good, and you're like, Ryan, what are you doing? Right? Even through a natty season. And what do you mean? What do you mean you were going through a season, a national championship season? You lost to Michigan. You didn't even know if you would win the first game of a playoff.
Right.
What was the talk going into Tennessee, Joe?
Right.
Man, there's a chance they can go off in there if that's the same team that plays. What are you talking about?
I would also argue that, like, the general awkward saltiness of them telling him not to come to the celebration.
Oh, that's such BS too. Come on, Joe. Come on.
No, but I'm saying that I think that it also plays into that there was something on the opposite end that they were not comfortable with, satisfied with what Knowles was doing.
I don't think that Ryan Day didn't know that he was leaving. They had to have known he was leaving because that's why they told him not to come back, right?
Mm-hmm.
But clearly.
Yeah.
But there also comes a point in time where, look, man, it's your own fault. But I wouldn't have kept it. I mean, to be real with you, I wouldn't have kept him there if he was signing with Penn State. That even though it's not like a traditional rival, it's not Michigan to you. I mean, Penn State, you play in high-profile games with Penn State damn near every year. Like, I mean, I wouldn't have kept him either, but at the same time, it's their fault. Let's not act as if that Ohio State is blameless at any given moment. Brother, you lost 2 games. Now, you can say one's on the offense, but one was definitely – one was on the defense, but one was definitely on the offense here. Hey, guess what? In primetime games against primetime opponents, sometimes you got to go down and score. What happened with Chip Kelly on the last drive? Why aren't you putting that on him?
Right.
Why isn't the pressure on him that he couldn't get the last drive done? So, look, Ohio State fans, we love you. And, well, don't love Joe at the current moment because he defended Michigan. But when it comes to you and your football team, we have never come out against you. If you cannot see that this is some BS, then I don't know what to show you here, Joe. I'm sorry.
I do think that Ryan Day is on the wrong side of this, and I honestly I think
especially if it backfires. But if Matt Patricia does great, and they ain't gonna care,
right? They'll be fine. Which I thought that the Patricia hire was a great hire. I was one of the few people who supported it. I just think generally that this is kind of screams to me that they mishandled it, and I think that, and what I keep seeing on Twitter is that they're pissed off at Knowles for talking the way that he did. I personally think that Knowles is handling this as best as he could. I don't think he needed to speak on this, and he could have ignored Dinich's questions and told her that he didn't want to answer them. But at the same time, it sounds like he tried to act as cordially as possible and just try to get this thing done, and they kept putting it off. So, and Alex has a couple comments about this, saying that a couple super chats saying that he heard it was later on in the playoffs.
From what I've heard, it was later in the playoffs with a $2 super chat. It says 0 punts in the second, or 0 second half punts versus Michigan every year. I mean, that is fair. Okay, fine. Do it. But he still made his defense that he had to rebuild made multiple stops for you. Don't you dare come, Elks. I love you. And thank you for the money. I appreciate it. But please don't come. Yeah, don't come at me and say that, oh, well, we didn't have second half punts versus Michigan. Well, Joe, they're a national championship team. 2 years ago, they're a national championship team. What do you mean? Like, yeah. In reference to last thing for me here, your last part about not speaking with Dinich. Joe, we've had coordinators been paid $2 million before. I mean, 2 years ago, Mike Denbrock, who got an extension from LSU at $2 million, goes back to where his roots are, and a guy that he knew in Marcus Freeman. He goes back to Notre Dame. Joe, he's going to make $2.2 million this year per sourcing. Okay, they're a private institution. You don't know. But I don't know if we break news here or not, but I know for a fact he's going to make over $2 million this year. For a fact. The fact that you have a coordinator that subsided the $2 million mark and is getting paid $3.5 million, I mean, they're putting a crap load of pressure on him to talk to him. Why wouldn't he talk? I mean, this is groundbreaking college football stuff here. This isn't like your everyday run of the mill. Oh, another coordinator getting paid $2 million. That's not it. This is completely different.
Well, and I don't blame him for providing this context because the speculation at the time was that Penn State swooped in and offered him all this money to leave and that they like stole him away. And it doesn't sound like that was the case. It sounded like, and also one of the things that I said at the time when he left, that like something seemed off, something seemed really weird that this happens. There clearly was something that we're missing. And now we have that missing information that call it what it is. I don't want to hear any Ohio State fans, and Alex, it actually sounds like you're probably one of the more level-headed Ohio State fans because he's saying that both sides are at fault. It's a fallout. That's what this is. Jim Knowles didn't do anything that was unethical, scummy. He didn't do anything that was wrong. And
no, he came in to take Ryan Day's job, and he did it.
But he's not completely absolved of any fault in this. You know, he's not completely taken out of it because I'm sure that there's a side that we don't know, and maybe we'll even get a side that we don't know from Ryan Day because Ryan Day likes to talk. So, and the other side of this is that Ryan Day is also not completely innocent. What?
Who do you think Ryan Day was more mad at? Jim Knowles after the fallout of negotiations or lack thereof negotiations? Or do you think he was more mad at Lou Holtz?
I think he was more mad at Lou Holtz. This sounds more passive-aggressive. He was actually mad at Lou Holtz.
Why are you getting mad at a 90-year-old?
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Anyway, look. Dude, what if Penn State does do what people think they can do this year?
Oh, we will revisit this. This will be an even more toxic.
We will revisit this. This is
conversation.
All right. Speaking on the Big Ten. Joey, continue on our deep dives here, and tonight we stay in the Big Ten. We go to the great state of Michigan. I was on Detroit radio this weekend. I was on Detroit, I believe, in Detroit Lions this week as well, talking about some draft stuff from LSU guys. But Michigan's my home away from home this week when it comes to as many times I've been up and talking in the great state of Michigan. But tonight we go to Michigan. The Michigan Wolverines, Joe, 2 years ago won a national title, and first year under Sherrone Moore go 8-5. But arguably the biggest shift at the end of the season by any team in the country was the Wolverines beating the national title winners in Ohio State, coming close to beating a playoff team in Indiana, and then finishing off bowl season by waxing Alabama. Joe, when you look into the 2025 season of the Michigan Wolverines, how do you see them, bro?
Michigan is one of these teams in 2025 that is quite a bit of a question mark because they have exactly what you look for a team to take the big step forward. First year, new head coach, has a really strong finish, unexpected bowl victory against an SEC team, pulls out the big upset against Ohio State, their biggest rival. They're doing everything right at the end of the year. But when we dig into and we look on paper, we got to read into the fact that they're losing some of the best players in the country. They're losing Mason Graham, who was a top 5 pick. They're losing Will Johnson, who was banged up a lot last year, so it's a little bit of a different conversation, but was still a very highly drafted guy by the Arizona Cardinals. Kenneth Krantz gone. Colston Loveland is gone. Josiah Stewart, Kalel Mullings, Miles Hinton, only to name a few. So there is a lot of defensive talent gone, but they have a complete mastermind in Wink Martindale, who is going to be organizing a group that still returns some very gifted guys that we're going to get into. I say they're a question mark, Blake, because they still have potential. They have potential because of guys like Jashawn Barham. They've got potential like guys like Derek Moore in their D-line and Rod Moore and Jair Hill. There is athleticism.
Austin comes back too, by the way.
Yes. There is a lot of athleticism on that defense, but a lot of it comes down to the true freshman who we expect to play quarterback in Bryce Underwood.
I want to stay on the defensive side of things very quickly for me. Joe, you talked about Barham. You talked about that linebacking room returning. Joe, that front seven, and I know that Mason Graham is gone, but they rotated a lot in and out of that defensive tackle room.
Yep.
Joe, all right. Look, listen, stay with me on what I'm about to say. There are two teams, one in the Big Ten and one in the SEC, that I think that if we look up at the end of the year and we say to ourselves, hey, now, hold on. I know that they might be 6-2, 7-2. They win this game, brother. They could be a playoff team. In the SEC, that might be Florida. Joe, in the Big Ten, it is Michigan. I saw a lot of people today talking about Illinois. Illinois is the Indiana of last year, right? I know that. I'm pretty sure that you saw this too. I don't know if I'm going to put Michigan as the Indiana, like coming out of nowhere. Brother, let's talk about how they absolutely exposed two really damn good teams a year ago. At the end of the year, they waxed Ohio State. Going into the stadium, this is what I saw from a team more than anything X's and O's wise, more than anything talent level wise in the University of Michigan, belief. And belief in their head coach. I get chills. I got chills right now going down my spine. The way they entered that stadium, it gets me fired up. That gets predicated off of Wink Martindale and how that defense locked things down in the second half. Will Johnson was a draft pick. Joey didn't play. Now, you did have a top 10. I mean, he didn't play. He quit.
Right. Well, okay, he didn't quit, but he did. He was. No, stop. He had dude, he fell in the draft because he had a serious issue with his knee. He could play.
Teams thought he was a quitter.
No.
Anyway,
go ahead, continue. But that's not what happened.
Even if it's not, they still didn't have him. We're kind of playing around there, tongue in cheek. Yeah. But regardless, I saw a damn good defensive front seven. A lot of them returning, and they're adding pieces. Uh-oh. I'm a little bit higher on Michigan than maybe some might believe. Look, it does come down to what they're going to do offensively. I get it. If they got a pulse bigger than what they had, Joe, they had a walk-on at quarterback. And they walked into Ohio State and started swinging punches. Bryce Underwood's better than that walk-on today. I don't care what anybody tells me. I don't care. That kid's better. They did add some pieces offensively, but they're going to be better offensively simply because of him.
That's where my head's at. And that's why I am believing in the fact that they're going to be a better team this year. I don't think that they're going to really hit the stride of them actually hitting.
I agree with you.
10 wins, playoff team. I don't think that they're there just yet. I think that this is going to be a better version of what we had with Nebraska and Florida last year, where freshman quarterback starts, we ooh and ah over the highlight, freak out, and we go, oh my God, look at the big play, look at the big play. And then there's going to be oh yeah, that didn't look so great. Oh, the offense only threw for 150 yards this week, and Bryce Underwood had a couple of picks. But the games where he throws for 300 and he rushes for like a big 60-yard touchdown because he's so much more athletic than everybody else on the field, that is where we're going to start to feel for the real pulse. I think Michigan fans are understanding that this is kind of
a rebuild.
It's a rebuild, but it's also a building year. This is the year that you show improvement and then you jump the next season.
Yep.
I think for how ass that they were, how bad they were on offense, they hit their stride in their identity, which was running the football. I think that this upcoming year with Bryce Underwood, you can throw the ball a little bit more effectively, and you're going to be able to run the ball potentially even better with him at quarterback, and also with the additions of Justice Haynes, who is a potentially super productive running back in this offense. I think in the future, we got to look ahead to guys like Andrew Babaloa, who they brought in, who's a very highly regarded recruit. I wonder if he maybe even contributes at some point this year because he is such a valuable piece for that team's future. But they showed us what they can be when they didn't have a damn quarterback. Like it felt like you were watching football from like 1975 with the crap that they were trotting out there with trying to move the ball.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's such a good comparison that it's the Walmart version of what Florida did a year ago, potentially. Now, and it's funny.
I mean, I think it's the better version. I wouldn't call it Michigan the Walmart version. I think Florida was the Walmart version. I think that this team's a little better.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That if this team is a little bit better, then it'd be more of the Walmart version instead of Dr. Pibb, right? Okay. Like, I mean, regardless, let me get to them offensively. They were so bad. Joe, I got to be real with you. It was damn near, for me at times and moments, unwatchable. Like, because there is no creativity, but there can't be any creativity because when you started to do some things that are creative, well, you got to walk on kid at quarterback, and that's no disrespect for him. You brought up an interesting point about Bryce Underwood. I agree with you. There are going to be so many learning curves. And look, you're paying this kid a lot of money. You're going to have to get over that this kid that you stole at let's just call it at 11:59 right before midnight, you literally go in there and you're going to have to allow him to have these mistakes. You are building into something. But like Joe just said, and like I think it's brilliant by you, when Raiola had those situations, he's going to grow from that. More really and truthfully, it was more that I would compare it to DJ Lagway because Raiola did kind of fall a little down the stretch along with Nebraska. Yeah. But Lagway against Ole Miss, against LSU, against all these other teams, they legitimately showed he showed the throws that he'd make. So the problem is that I don't know if they're going to be better around him regardless if he doesn't have those issues. Right? Like, I know that you go out and get Anthony Simpson at wide receiver. Joe, he played in 2 games last year. His most productive year was in 2023. You go out and get Indiana's wide receiver and McCulley. The last time that he played was in 2023. He redshirted last year at Indiana. So, like, I know their philosophy and what they want to do, but I don't know if you're giving him the overall weapons to succeed either, other than what will probably be a really good run game. I don't know if he's going to have the big separation and bigger windows that he's going to be able to throw the football because I don't know what he has around him. Colston Loveland's not there anymore, but they produce tight ends.
But he was banged up and unavailable for most of last year too.
Right. My point exactly where I was going with that. I don't know if they have what those – DJ Lagway still had NFL receivers that he was throwing to. Now, one of them signed a free agent deal. I mean, regardless, he still had some dudes.
Well, DK got drafted by the Titans, and we're talking about oh my God, who's the name?
Well, Eugene Wilson. Okay,
Trey Wilson's the guy who keeps getting hyped up. They brought actually Sturdivant just got there. Never mind, ignore what I was just about to say. But he had. You're right. He has a lot of gifted players. I think that does kind of create like the question mark. I don't think you need, as they showed us, as dynamic of weapons to succeed and move the ball in the Big Ten. I don't think that this team needs to be super explosive on offense. They just need to be a little bit better. They were that awful. They were like Iowa. They were like Iowa last year. So like you're telling me that they're going to be a little bit more productive.
They were a lot like Iowa. They were. I can make the point that I think that in moments and times they were worse.
Iowa showed me more than what they had in some spurts. I mean, there were some truly awful games that they played. Some truly awful games that they played.
Well, and majority of them came offensively. I mean, most of them just came offensively. I mean, what are we talking about? We're talking about you holding Indiana the way that you did for that long, and then you finally broke. So what? Like, what are you mad at the defense for breaking at the end of that game for? Joe, they were on the field forever. You couldn't score. Like, you beat Indiana last year in your worst year, which probably will be your worst year going in with Sherrone Moore.
They didn't beat Indiana.
No, I know. That's what I'm saying. Like, you didn't beat Indiana because of the offense.
Sorry.
You don't beat them but you would beat them this year. Like, you would beat them this year if the things were still the same with this year's offense. That's my point. Like, I don't even have to see it. Joe, their quarterback play was the worst that I've ever seen a blue blood like that have. Like, I mean, we've seen some bad quarterback play. Joe, it was horrible. It was dead awful bad. They couldn't throw the ball 15 yards plus. What are we talking about? Like, what are we discussing? It's not even a look, we're opinion guys. Mm-hmm. There are some times when we talk that some things are just not opinion. This is the massive one where when we're talking about this, it's not an opinion. Like, it was that bad. So
right, there's no one was advocating. That's the whole point. No one was advocating to say no, but that's why you're right. It is such a proven point that their offense, their quarterback play, it was like Bowling Green level bad. It looked like we were watching Toledo. Toledo's quarterback room.
What was the worst team in
Akron? Akron was.
Oh wait, are we supposed to talk about Akron's academic issues?
No. Okay. I don't know how you can do that in 2025.
I don't.
Like, of all priorities, you think you'd be trying to make sure kids graduate and are learning. Yeah. Not only do you not have money to be paid, you're also getting a bad education. What a selling point by Akron. I think that right now, though, there is a ceiling for them. I think it's not like a super exciting one. I think 9-3 is the ceiling. I think that they have a high floor, though. Like, I think that them going 8-4 in the regular season is truly attainable. I give this a really narrow window because I just don't see a team with this coaching staff and some of the level of athletes, not only that, but the schedule that they're facing this upcoming year. 9-3, 8-4 is truly accomplishable.
I got to ask you a very serious question because I had a very tough time with this today. Are you 1,000% sold that they, outside of Ohio State, that you couldn't make an argument that they could beat everybody on their schedule? Because I look at this schedule now and I see, Joe, I don't care what you tell me. Oklahoma runs that same offensive line out there that they did a year ago. Michigan has a chance to go into Soonerville and smack that rear end.
Right. So, okay, can I read their schedule so we kind of have this context?
Yes.
Host New Mexico. They go to Oklahoma. They host Central Michigan, which is one of the Sherrone Moore out games. They go to Nebraska, bye week.
Also Sherrone Moore.
Yeah. Versus Wisconsin, at USC, versus Washington, at Michigan State, versus Purdue, bye week, at Northwestern, at Maryland, versus Ohio State. I only really truly see one game that I feel like is likely a loss. I'm sorry to say this. I think that they're losing to Ohio State this year. I would find it very hard to believe that they're going to continue this streak. I think that would be like, it would be one of the strangest things in the history of the sport if Ryan Day couldn't get back after last year. Like, after getting the monkey off his back of winning a national title, all that stuff, that like he wouldn't calm himself down. I know it's on the road. That's the one game. I say this to say that the rest of the schedule, Blake, to me, it's a lot of question mark games. Oklahoma's a question mark. Nebraska's a question mark. USC's a question mark. Washington's a question mark. They're all winnable. Those are coin flips.
So that's kind of my point.
Yeah.
Right. Like so you read it off, and here's what I said until the very last game at Ohio State. New Mexico, yeah, sure. All right, Oklahoma. All right. You're gonna get a test early. I mean, if that same defense shows up like it did against Alabama, you are getting smoked. Yes. I'm sorry. With that offensive line, you're getting smoked. Central Michigan at Nebraska. Joe, I mean, we're 4 weeks in here. Maybe Nebraska, because I was like, Sherrone Moore's not there. But you already had a really tough road test in the beginning. He gets to coach here in practice all week. Like, okay, well, it's not like Michigan hadn't gone through that before.
No. Wait. The suspension, he's not allowed to be at practice.
Okay.
That was in the article. He's not allowed to be at practice.
Okay, I thought they did the whole Harbaugh thing. Regardless, doesn't matter to me, really. Wisconsin, USC, Washington, Michigan State, Purdue. Joe, Michigan State, Purdue, Northwestern? What? Those are wins, brother. Those are wins. Boom, boom, boom. Those are all wins. At Maryland, brother, they had more people leave the transfer portal than you see hookers leaving a Hooters. 1,000%, they're winning those 4 games. Joe, I gotta say it, man. I gotta say it. I don't know if you don't need to keep your eyes on them about a potential playoff contender if they start the season off early hot.
I'm not going to go that far. One other thing that stands out to me is that
who do they lose to? Who do you feel like they lose to?
Okay, we said this last year that there's a really good chance that they end up losing games like
we never
game on the road. They lose
last year. We never said that.
Well, there was some uncertainty. I think that there's, as much as there are coin flip games that could go in their favor if they play a really good defensive game, you're still starting a freshman quarterback and things could blow up in your face. So I think that going to USC is an opportunity for that to happen.
That's true.
Going on the road at Michigan State, a rival, there's a chance for that to happen. Hosting Washington, who is going to be a lot better of a team this year, is one that you could lose. The game against Nebraska, going to Nebraska without Sherrone Moore and all of those distractions, is going to be a game that you could lose. I think that 9-3 is more realistic. I don't see this as a playoff team. I just don't. I think that would be.
They're going to go in. Well, if they're 9-3, with all due respect, so I just said that they could be a playoff contender. I didn't say they're in. If they're 9-3.
They're in the conversation, but they're
this is what it would mean. Based off of what you said, they're going into Ohio State for a playoff berth. I mean, there's no other way to slice or dice that now.
I would think realistically.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Again, they're going into the horseshoe as literally somebody that can go, okay, Joe, listen, I don't get adamant much. All right. I'm telling you, I'm
not gonna go all the way there. I see the tape. I can see they're gonna be one of the first teams out.
If they're 8-2 going to the horseshoe, they're 1,000%, or not 8-2. What would it be?
Wait. It'll just be like how Texas A&M was in the conversation for the last couple of weeks, and then they petered off. It'll be just like that.
A&M, first off, pause. A&M had 4 ranked opponents in November. This isn't the same.
No, but it's the same thing that at the end of the year, we're thinking that maybe they finished strong. They're still in the mix, and they lost to Texas and they were out.
Oh, look, I'll concede that. Okay, fair. It could happen that way. But you're going to tell me that we're going through August, September, October, and most of November, let's just say so 4.5 months of the football season, they're in that hunt with everybody else. Okay, man.
It's possible, but I'm not going to go all the way. 9-3, 8-4 is my projection.
The reason I will agree with you that I think they go 9-3, 8-4, I actually would say they go 8-4, but I really want to lean to them going 9-3. The only reason I say that, I agree with you. The Bryce Underwood thing's a lot to overcome. And look, man, you got to go on the road to Oklahoma. That's tough. That's very tough. Yeah. So I'm with you, Joe. I think that some of these lower tier teams in the Big Ten are really bad that they play down the stretch. Hold on. In 6 weeks, Washington at Michigan State, Purdue, Northwestern, Maryland. Joe, that is maybe they can lose to Maryland, but I don't think people remember how much of an exodus. Who's Maryland's starting quarterback after your boy left?
Edwards is gone.
Right.
The roster's a mess. It's a complete mess.
Roster's a complete mess. Where are you putting it? Purdue? Purdue went 1-11 last year. 1-11.
They have an incredibly favorable schedule, so that's why I lean in agreeing with you, and that's why 9-3 is super plausible. Why I completely reject them doing worse than that. And why I think that the floor is so close to the ceiling is because they've got a really favorable schedule. They have a very winnable schedule. They aren't going to get in their own way.
Okay. I can't believe you made me come out here on Believe in Big Ten, only on XM radio, that will be on there tomorrow. I can't believe you made me come out here and say SEC Blake said that Michigan could be a contender.
Yeah, look what I caused. Look
what you started. See, I want everybody to remember this. When everybody says I'm an SEC homer, I want everybody to remember this.
Hard pass.
You know who also had a hard pass? Jim Knowles. We'll see y'all again on Sunday. Y'all have a good day. Peace.